he was the real deal and more than just a wrestler, subsequently earning a title shot and eventually claiming UFC gold against Forrest Griffin. Number 9. Holm versus Ronda Rousey, UFC 193. Several iconic head kick knockouts have been dubbed the Kid Herd around the world. This one earns that name with good reason. For UFC 193, the general public expected that bantamweight champion Ronda Rousey would steamroll into her opponent, Holm. Instead, Holm shocked the world, stunning Rousey with a punch followed by a head kick that knocked her out cold in the second round.
Highlight reel knockout, Holm pulled off one of the greatest upsets in MMA history to capture a UFC goal. You're going the winner by knockout.
And undisputed UFC Featherweight champion of the world, Holly, the preacher's doctor,
before he even knew it hit him. You know a knockout is so devastating when the person who hit it bows down and frays in front of the person who was seated.
But let's not forget, this wasn't the first time he pulled off a front gate knockout. Number 7. Gonzaga versus Cro Cop. Heavyweight Cro Cop was famous for his kicks, so much so that a phrase, right kick hospital, left kick cemetery, was coined to describe his style. Unfortunately, he was on the receiving end of a devastating hit from his opponent, Gonzaga, at UFC 7. In the very first round, Gonzaga hit Cro Cop with a head kick, and he hit the floor like a ragdoll. While it was already determined that the winner would face then heavyweight champion Randy Couture, Gonzaga couldn't have done a better job showing why he deserved the title shot. Number 6. Buckley versus Kasanganay, UFC Fight Night 179. At this UFC Fight Night, Buckley pulled off something straight out of an action movie. After his kick was caught by Kasanganay, he still made sure to hit him in the craziest way possible. The back kick broke the internet, and Buckley put himself on notice, cementing himself as one of the UFC's most exciting new prospects. So no one's surprised it earned him an accolade for the UFC's Knockout of the Year. We'd be hard-pressed to see a knockout as wonderfully executed as this in the next few years. Number 5. McGregor versus Aldo, UFC 194. Arguably one of the biggest and most highly promoted bouts in UFC history. Irish superstar McGregor was ready to take on Aldo and become the undisputed UFC featherweight champion of the world. Despite months of build-up and anticipation, it didn't take McGregor too long to dismantle the Brazilian. In just 13 seconds, McGregor knocked out Aldo by way of a vicious left hook that hit him right on the chin. It was the fastest knockout in a UFC title fight, and it further cemented McGregor's claim as one of, if not the biggest star on the UFC roster. Well, Number 4. Francis Ngannou versus Overeem, UFC 218. No one expected this bout to go the distance, and rightfully so. At UFC 218, Francis Ngannou into superstardom and made him one of the UFC's most popular fighters. Number 3. Masvidal versus Ben Askren, UFC 239. The fastest knockout in UFC history. Masvidal demolished Ben Askren with this flying knee. Askren wanted to go for the takedown immediately, and clearly, the subsequent celebrations by Masvidal were also noteworthy, but there was a reason behind it all. Askren had a fair bit to say about Masvidal prior to the fight, so the lesson here everyone can take away is this: tread lightly if you trash talk Masvidal. It's probably not going your way.
I saw some criticism. People say the punches weren't really necessary, made it was super necessary.
Number 2. Edson Barboza versus Terry Etim, UFC 142. Now this one looks like it came straight out of a video. At UFC 142, Edson Barboza had kicked the living daylights out of Harry Adam. It really poses the question, what he once did. You want to take a chance and risk getting knockouts?
He was unconscious before he even hit the floor, and Barboza didn't even bother to pursue him to land additional strikes. Landing the first ever spinning wheel kick knockout, Barboza had officially arrived in the UFC and staked his claim as a contender in the lightweight division. Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Chuck Liddell versus Randy Couture.
Anderson Silva versus Vitor Belfort. UFC 126. Like we're 7 seconds to Dylan. Evan Lee versus Gregor Gillespie. UFC 244. Switching up to the body.
Rich Franklin versus Nate Quarry, UFC 56. The cat of Fuegal is a wow. Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal, UFC 261. And the balls to superior than an
Number 1, Dan Henderson versus Michael Bisping, UFC 100. In the second round of this fight, Dan Henderson landed
Bisping frequently taunted Henderson prior to their fight, most notably during their stint as coaches on The Ultimate Fighter. So one can't help think there was some motivation and pent-up aggression put into that shot. Henderson's signature punch, often labeled as Inked Bob, was so hard, Bisping couldn't even remember being hit. Here we go again in slow motion. Boom! Separates him from his senses. And Bisping right now is sitting up and he's after you and gives you a deal what happened. With precision, timing, speed, and power, Henderson was able to land the ultimate shot